Boruto is about to get overtaken by Momoshiki in his upcoming fight against Jura, and while there is a high chance for this possibility to come true due to the pledge of the otsutsuki from chapter 72, what if I told you Jura is about to get a strong flashback from the time when he was held captive by Jigen, which could unveil one of the biggest twists in the story. Jura already knows about Momoshiki, but he's unaware of the fact that he had taken over the body of Boruto, so this incident of the monster taking control of his opponent could come as a surprise to him. But on top of having a flashback of Momoshiki's hologram, there is something more in this face-off that no one must have expected, and that is the real reason for Kashin Koji to hold Boruto back. It wasn't the fear of Jura, but actually the fear of Momoshiki, and by the end of this video, you will find out how it all sums perfectly to a major decision of Kawaki from the future. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and let's begin. At this point in the story, I think Jura's role is more than just being the most strongest antagonist ever. Almost everyone sees him as a new character who is trying to figure out the ways of the world that he has been born in. But the most important thing, which gets overlooked whenever someone asserts him as a character, has something to do with his hidden backstory and the untold tales of his past as a Ten-Tails. Jura is not a brand new character. He is just a brand new form of the juvenile Ten-Tails who was held captive by Jigen. Chapter 5 gave us a solid hint for him having past memories. You can watch my last video where I dive deep into that. But today I wanna talk about something entirely different. It's about everyone's forgotten favorite, Momoshiki otsutsuki. Remember the time when Sasuke infiltrated the dimension of Ten-Tails, where we saw a projection of every otsutsuki? No wonder the captive Ten-Tails, which is in fact Jura, must have also seen the holograms of these beings. Or let's be real, he could have even seen Momoshiki and Kinshiki in person when they would have landed in this dimension, which is how their tablets were formed. It actually fits the chronology too, with the sigils on the extreme left belonging to the missing otsutsuki who came before Ishiki and Kaguya. Then we have the betrayal duo in the middle and Momoshiki Kinshiki at the very end, who must be the last to enter this dimension. So how does Jura already knowing about Momoshiki make a difference in this scenario? Well, it actually does, as him remembering the otsutsuki might hopefully give us some more flashback sequences, revealing some new celestial creatures or even their gods. But when it comes to the emergence of Momoshiki in the form of Boruto, it will only mess the puzzle more for the Shinju, cause Boruto getting hijacked might not be a part of his bingo book. But before we further unravel the reaction of Jura, as well as the aftermath of his potential battle with Momoshiki, let's first understand why Boruto losing control is a massive possibility. The entire mind game of Two Blue Vortex is being played by two individuals at present. Both of them have the power of prescience, which means they can play with the odds to manifest a future of their own desire, unless someone decides to intervene and ruin their plans. I'm talking about Kashin Koji and Momoshiki. Both of them had foreseen and planned out a future, which faced an unexpected turnover at the end by the hands of Boruto. In Momoshiki's case, he stayed resilient to his manipulation, which saved him from giving away the control of his body. As for Koji, he had planned out the death of Konohamaru to prevent the meetup of Jura and Boruto. But to his bad luck, Boruto decided to save his master, which alerted Jura of his emergence, and now a showdown could be on its way. If you take a look at this panel where Boruto slashes away Matsuri, you can clearly see the claw marks which were attached to her body floating in the air, and judging by the circumstances, Jura could use them to appear in front of Boruto in no time. So how does Momoshiki enter the picture here? Well, there are a few reasons for him to make an unexpected entry into this fight. First off, as Boruto might perceive it as his final battle, he might decide to use the last resort, which is the Kama seal, in order to give his best against Jura. The intensity of the situation would decide how strongly he believes it to be his final fight. Throughout Naruto, characters have been shown to unlock their most powerful jutsu, transformations and abilities during their final battle. Some examples would be Naruto unleashing 6-pass Sage Mode and Baryon Mode, combining all the Tail Beast chakra and Kurama's power to defeat foes like Sasuke and Ishiki or Sasuke. Madara activated the Infinite Tsukuyomi to assert his godlike dominance as the ultimate antagonist. Kakashi, empowered by Obito's spirit, used their dual Mangekyou Sharingan for Kamui Shuriken and Perfect Susanoo against Kaguya to achieve a fleeting peak. Now when it comes to Boruto, if he actually sees Jura as his final opponent, then something big and unexpected must be on its way. And the reason I feel like it may be the Kama is because he hasn't used it in almost 2 years, which means he could get his powers enhanced in diabolical ways. So does this mean that he stands a chance against Jura? I will get to the answer in a moment, but first let's get over the greater repercussion which would follow the Kama activation, and that is the most awaited emergence of Momoshiki. It's kinda simple. Boruto is afraid of using the Kama cause it could lead to the awakening of the sleeping monster. He fled from the Kawaki fight in chapter 9 since the resonance activated the Kama which could have let Momoshiki out. Now that we are in a scenario where he has no option left other than the Kama, there is no way the seal would not lead to something undesirable since that's the whole reason of him holding back all these years. And even if he believes that he would somehow handle Jura without using the Kama, the activation of this seal is actually inevitable cause back in chapter 14, Boruto informed Kawaki about his limiters and how Amado has been holding him back for his own motives. A few chapters later, we saw him interrogating Amado which led to him getting deactivated. Later in the same chapter, both Kawaki and Amado stated their demands and ever since then, they have been missing from the story. Usually when a disappearance like this happens, it often leads to a fruitful payoff. In the original Naruto, something similar happened when Sasuke went to train with Orochimaru for almost 70 chapters. However, he came back much stronger with a variety of new powers and abilities. But it's Boruto, and here the side character doesn't get a training arc. Instead, they get instant power-ups, which makes them 10 times more powerful than they actually are. So Kawaki not appearing in the manga after negotiating with Amado, Boruto asking for his help against Jura, and the story taking us to the most awaited fight only means one thing. Kawaki is about to enter the Jura battle with brand new powers and stuff as seen in the V-Jump cover, and with his unexpected appearance, a variable that Koji failed to see, there could be the awakening of the Kama seal which would yet again resonate with Boruto, and guess what? It would lead to the emergence of Momoshiki. Well, before I go to the main theory, do you remember Jura asking Ko to get rid of Boruto in return of the chakra fruit? Well, a part of me believes that we could be getting a rematch of the Kama trio the next chapter, with Code appearing to fulfill the orders of Jura, followed by Kawaki entering the scene to flex his new powers, and just when Kawaki would activate the Kama to deal with Code, Momoshiki would appear. Back in chapter 65, it was Kawaki's new Kama that he used to assert his dominance over the other Kama users, and now that we know that wasn't his true power, he could now be using his limitless abilities, the ultimate powers of Ishiki, to get rid of Code and Boruto. And if a situation like that takes place, then only Jura's interference could stop him from going further. But let's keep that for another video and focus on the main highlight. So now that we know the emergence of Momoshiki is almost inevitable, unless Kishimoto decides to finally introduce the Jogen, let's understand what could go down in the story once Boruto gets possessed by the missing monster. So the very first thing that could happen after Borushiki appears in front of Jura could be the Shinju having a flashback of the time when he saw Momoshiki in the Ten Tails dimension. This would provide us some clarity on Jura's past and how his life as a Jubi will be an important setup for the future of the story. He must be aware of Momoshiki's existence, but not his current circumstances, such as his fusion with Boruto. This would make Jura realize that there are too many things happening in this world which are beyond his understanding. Now as for the attitude of Momoshiki towards the Shinju, well, it really depends upon if he stands a chance against him or not. Assuming he can take the abilities of Boruto to their maximum potential, then there is a chance for him to go neck to neck with Jura, and a big hint to back this up comes from the flash forward where Boruto's sleeve is visibly torn out. This may be an outcome of him trying to absorb the Jubi Dama of Jura with the Kama, with the impact tearing down his sleeve. Now the reason I believe it's Momoshiki who would have tried to absorb Jura's attack instead of Boruto himself is because he had been afraid of using this seal from a very long time, so him using it in defense to counter a strong energy wave from Jura is highly unlikely, because there is a chance for Momoshiki to take over as soon as Boruto activates the Kama. It's pretty evident in chapter 9 when Boruto did not waste a second to think and use the Kama in fear of Momoshiki's takeover. We shouldn't forget that the otsutsuki must have developed himself mentally within the psyche of Boruto, which means he now has better edges over him, which includes controlling the vessel's body right after the Kama's activation. Another logic behind this comes from Boruto not realizing how to use the Kama properly, since it has been a long time when he last used it. Kawaki at this point would have more control over his Kama than Boruto, which is why there is a high likelihood for Momoshiki to appear and take the matters in his own hands. Now as for whether Borushiki would be able to finish Jura or not, well, chapter 22 likely marks the end of the Shinki rescue arc, so it won't be a bad idea to let Momoshiki take over from this point, like him using the Uzuhiko to finish off Jura by amplifying this ability to its maximum potential would be one of the best ways to mark his return into the story. Nevertheless, whether he defeats Jura or not, the fact that Boruto has went against Koji's command could open some brand new doors for the story, and one of them could even answer the biggest question of the story so far, the one from the prologue sequence, which has left everyone puzzled. Why does Kawaki want to seal Boruto instead of killing him? So things are about to get really interesting from this point, so I hope you subscribe. As we know, Boruto failed to follow Koji's plans, which means something unpredictable is on its way, which shouldn't have happened in the first place. In the words of Koji, it's the death of Boruto, as Jura must spare him once he sees him. To add some weight to his thesis, he even says that it's a possibility which has unfolded in many of the futures seen by him. But should we actually believe him? Well, I guess the answer must be a no, cause Boruto is alive in the future, which means either what he foresaw got erased, maybe due to Boruto's role as a singularity, or he was actually trying to prevent something worse than Boruto's death, and that could be the emergence of Momoshiki, a calamity built upon years of regret, bitterness, and a blazing feeling to take revenge. So if the monster actually spoils the plans of Koji and drives the future to a worse outcome, then after Boruto finally gains the control back, Koji would have no choice but to stop working with him since he is too volatile and doesn't follow the rules. But if Koji does that, it would put the entire future on stake, right? Well, not anymore, as he could seek the help of Kawaki after he unlocks the true powers of Ishiki Otsutsuki. He could ask Kawaki to team up with him in order to eliminate Jura and every Otsutsuki in existence. But in return, Kawaki could ask him to provide him with a plan to get rid of Boruto. And since Kashin Koji has the power of ultimate foresight, he could peek into the future, only to find out that killing Boruto is almost impossible, as the monster trapped within him would never let him die, no matter what happens. So to make things align with Kawaki's vision, he would ask him to simply trap him in the same dimension as his father. He won't be able to escape the place, making it impossible for him to interrupt their plans, which explains why Kawaki wants to send him to the same place as Naruto in the future. It makes more sense when you realize how Kashin Koji sees Kawaki as the real son of Naruto, and even though that's irrelevant, based on how he knows about the effects of omnipotence, the fact that Kawaki without limiters would be as powerful as Ishiki makes him the perfect individual to fulfill the plan of Kashin Koji. Now if you wanna know how the shinobis get involved in between all this, make sure to check out this video on the right. Also subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you next time.